One of the biggest dangers of old age is becoming inactive. I stay active, and I also live in such a way that when the time comes for me to die, I won't feel like I missed out. The last 6 years of my life have been so much better than the previous 40 or 50 or whatever.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and and the more you live and the more active you are, the more healthy you are physically and mentally. It's just
yeah,
full of stoke and happiness and
yeah.
Welcome to the Passages from the Heart podcast, a podcast featuring real people sharing real stories about adventure out on the water. I'm your host, Shell Hart, and I'm super stoked you stopped by to take a listen. So what does living a life full of stoke look like to you? And how about for you specifically? In today's episode, I catch up with liveaboard solo sailor, author, and podcaster Paul Trammell. We talk about how he's been living his life the past 6 years full of stoke as a cruising sailor, author, podcaster, surfer, freediver, and spearfisherman. Paul reveals why living his life this way has been such a game changer and why chasing after your dreams matters. We also talk about life on anchor in Bocas Del Torro, Panama, cruising to the San Blas Islands in Panama, Paul's other passions found out on the water, including spearfishing, surfing, and freediving, the importance of having nature in our lives, plus a can't-miss tip for docking solo. We also dive deep into what it takes to stay ageless and stay healthy by continuing to live the lifestyle we are so passionate about. A lifestyle full of stoke.
Hey, so
hey,
it's great to see you.
yeah, you too.
I can't believe it's been almost 2 years since we last did this. That's pretty wild.
Oh wow, 2 years.
Well, I think I looked it up on, I think it was early January or late December, I think, when we did our interview
Wow.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, it really does. It's easier for me to kind of catch up with what you're doing because I get to hear your podcast weekly, and so I usually get a little bit of the newsy sorts of things that are going on in your neck of the
Uh-huh.
woods, which is always good. I was a little worried for you for those times when you were talking about the strikes down there. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it caused a little bit of anxiety, but overall it wasn't a problem for me. Uh,
Yeah, so is that just because of where you're located with respect to the mainland sort of a thing?
Pretty much, we're out here on these islands 10 or 15 miles from the mainland, and it's just kind of our own little world here, and nobody was striking here. Nobody was angry
Yeah.
here. And we have an airport, so things could get flown in from Panama City. People could fly in and out. You just the roads weren't open, none of them.
Oh, so no goods were coming in with the roads.
Yes, so
Okay.
goods had to come in either by boat or by plane, and luckily the grocery stores are all prepared for this. They
Hmm.
keep a few months worth of canned and dried goods on hand, so nobody was going hungry. And then there's local produce produced in the area.
Yeah, I was about to say that. So the local people on the island, because Boca, can you pronounce that for me again? I know you say it a million
Bocas
times.
del Toro.
Yeah,
Bocas del Toro.
it is an island though, right?
Well, technically, Bocas del Toro is a province, so it's kind of like a state in the United States. It's a
I
province
gotcha.
that encompasses a good bit of mainland as well. But usually,
Okay.
when people say Bocas del Toro, they're referring to a little cluster of islands. So typically when I say Bocas or someone says Bocas del Toro, they mean if the islands that we're in out here.
Right.
Isla Colón is the main island where Bocas Town is.
Okay.
But technically it's a province. But anyway, yeah, we're
Okay.
out on these islands with fish, and there's a lot of there's a good bit of fruit that's grown out here. Bananas and
Yeah.
um, coconuts, and there's plenty of fish. But anyway, it wasn't a big deal. Actually, there was some benefit to it uh, to me because I surf, and there were no surf tourists here for a couple of months. So
Yeah, that's and I'm looking forward to getting into to learning more about your surfing, because as I had mentioned when I reached out, I just I don't know if I told you this already. I got into kayaking this summer. I bought a kayak, and I came about the route to finding kayaking because of sailing, and
Hmm.
that's another story. But it just uh, it just kind of made me so happy to find this other connection to the water and to nature. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I have like goosebumps because I have just, I can't even describe it. I just have this sense of freedom and awe
Yeah.
and this level of independence that I haven't been able to completely capture with my sailing since I started getting back into sailing about 6 years ago. Um, but this isn't really about me, it's about you, obviously. But I just wanted to say that it made me have this other level of appreciation for the sailing people that I, come across online, who enjoy these other parts of what water can give to us in terms of enjoying it, like whether surfing or free diving or spearfishing, or there's all kiteboarding. There's all sorts of things that draw people to the water, and you always have been one of those people in my mind who seems to enjoy the water on so many different levels. I mean, in addition to sailing, obviously. Um, so I'm kind of eager to talk to you about those other activities, but I definitely wanted to sort of, if we could maybe look back to, it was the end of 2023 when we last connected, and I'm trying to think. I think you had just kind of, I don't know if you had recently arrived in that area or region, or but I know you've been there that whole time except for one trip to the
Yeah.
San Blas Islands, right? So just, if you could you kind of bring our listeners up to speed kind of from in 2 years? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I think I must have arrived here um, in 2023 this time. Yeah. Yeah. I got here right after the Bahamas, 2023. So 2022 for me was 22 was Newfoundland. And then that was the summer. And then the winter, I sailed, or the fall, I sailed down the U.S. coast. 2022 winter slash 23 was Bahamas. And then I came here May of 23. Yeah. And I've been here since. I've been sailing within Panama, but my boat hasn't left Panama since then.
didn't you do a trip down to the San Blas in the
Yeah.
last couple of years? When
Yeah, I did.
and that's going to be just kind of geography wise. So the Panama Canal, isn't it? Is it south? Isn't it like closer to Colombia almost in some ways than?
Yeah. So Panama, so Central America curves at Panama and runs east-west. So typically we think of Central America as running north-south, but actually Panama it runs, it's shaped kind of like a peanut or a S laying on its side, but it runs east-west. I'm in the western part, the northwestern part. The north side is the Caribbean, the south is the Pacific. To our west is Costa Rica, to our east is Colombia. And San Blas is the eastern end of Caribbean Panama. It's a large area. It's the locals, the indigenous people, uh, call it Gunayala, which means the Guna Nation, and it's still officially Panama, but it's self-governed. So
Oh,
the Guna tribe uh, run the area themselves. They don't really answer to the Panamanian government, but so it's kind of like a different country, but it's not really a different country. But you don't have to clear customs, but you do
yeah.
have to. You do have to. You get visited by the Gunayala uh, Congresso, which is like their Congress, I guess. They come
Okay.
out in a boat and take down your information and charge you $65 to
Oh,
be there
wow.
for a month.
Yeah.
$65 a month.
Oh, that's nothing, right?
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Yeah, it's worth it. It's a cool place.
And
Yeah, but
that's
anyway, that's the eastern part of the country on the Caribbean side. Just past, from here it would be past the canal by another 50 miles or so.
okay. And I think if I remember correctly, isn't that area also, I had read that it was a very matriarchal type of culture
Yeah,
or society?
it is.
Maybe
It's a
you mentioned
matriarchal
that.
society.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about it, but from what I've read, the women own the property, and when a man marries, he moves in with his new wife's family.
Right. Okay.
Um, and yeah, that's really about all I know. That it's a very interesting culture. The the indigenous Guna uh, dress different. They dress traditionally in very colorful clothes. They have face tattoos.
Oh,
Like
wow.
the first Guna that I met was a group of women that came by in a boat in a cayuco, wooden canoe, uh, to sell art. So their art is like the main thing they sell to the
Oh, yeah.
tourists, and it's very good. It's like the real deal. Like it's stuff that you buy because of its intrinsic value, not just because you're trying to be nice. And it's textile art. They take cloth and cut patterns and sew them together and make beautiful scenes like birds and fish and strange patterns. But it's beautiful stuff. And anyway, they came out to sell it, and the first woman that I made eye contact with and spoke to had a vertical line tattooed down her face, right in the center, right down her forehead, across her nose, and across her mouth, and down her chin.
Oh, wow. Was there
Yeah,
some significance to
striking.
that you were aware of?
I don't know.
Interesting.
My Spanish is pretty bad, and they have their own language, but they also typically speak Spanish. But communication was pretty rudimentary, so I
Yeah.
wasn't able to ask her about her tattoo.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
did buy
Okay.
some art.
Yeah. Now, wasn't that the area where your friend, what is the name of that? He's a really great guy that you've had on your
Probably talking
show.
about Kyle,
Yeah, the sea glass
the sea
guy,
glass
sea glass
guy, Captain
captain.
Kai, the sea glass guy.
Yeah, isn't that where
Yeah,
he had that where he got really sick or something and
he did. I
was
think he
some
contracted dengue in Linton Bay, but he was in San Blas for 2 weeks, getting sicker and sicker. Dengue
uh,
is a very serious disease.
yeah.
Um, it's kind of like malaria. A, it's a mosquito-borne
Mm.
either virus or parasite. But anyway, he was very sick, and he eventually got a ride to the mainland and got a ride. There's one road in
Yeah.
all of Gunayala. There's one road that leads back to civilization.
Wow,
Um,
that's crazy.
and
Wow.
so he got a ride to a hospital, but unfortunately he was taken to the public hospital. The lesson here is make sure you specify you want to go to the private hospital, privado,
Oh, I
hospital
didn't know
privado.
that.
Yeah,
I remember he said it was
quiero
like
ir
being
al hospital privado would be the phrase to use,
he had
because
to like break
it
out
was a
of jail kind of way
yeah,
went to the
apparently it was a
hospital.
terrible place where he felt like he was going to die if he stayed there, and
Yeah,
they wouldn't let him leave.
yeah.
They said they would handcuff him to the bed if he tried to leave. So
Oh my gosh,
he
that's so
eventually
scary.
pulled the IVs out of his arm and ran.
What a
He
story.
waited for the right time during visiting hours when they left the door unlocked. But he had like 8 different people in his room that are all bunked right next to each other, and they all had various wounds and illnesses.
Oh my gosh.
And he just said it was completely awful. There wasn't proper food or sheets on the beds. It's a very
Hmm.
bad situation. Anyway, he ran, pulled IVs out of his arms, got up, got out of the hospital, ran. Was lucky enough to get into a taxi. Was able to take a taxi all the way back to the Caribbean Sea, which is probably 3 hours away. And he was able to contact a friend who got in Kyle's dinghy and drove it 25 miles, which is a very long way to drive a dinghy, to pick Kyle up. Kyle got back on his boat and left Panama without clearing customs. Just got right on out of there.
He's like, I'm out.
He'd had enough. He'd had
Yeah,
enough.
I think that's kind of one of the things that frightens me the most a little bit about the liveaboard status, although I've never done it. But, I've been following your adventures and a lot of other solo sailors out there in the YouTube lands and whatnot. And I have to say, when I kind of think, especially maybe it's because now that I'm older, I've come to accept a bit of my vulnerability with respect to my
Hmm.
physical health. And so I always kind of think, gosh, if I had, um, something catastrophic happen, either from a, fall or like what happened to him getting sick, I just feel like it's hard enough to navigate that sort of a situation here in my own area where I live in the United States, in a very an area accessible with all kinds of modern medicines and whatnot. But just like if you were somewhere remote, and I mean, I guess that's just sort of one of the things that solo sailors have to accept. And I know you all have, you know, extensive kinds of medical kits and things I'm sure that you keep on board. But yeah, I mean, I have to say, I think that's one of the things that does kind of give me pause a bit about the
Hmm.
lifestyle. If I was younger, I bet you I probably wouldn't worry so much about that. But now that I'm pushing towards the sixth decade of my life, I definitely have to say those sorts of thoughts enter my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, sure. It's really, I feel like it's just up to me to stay healthy. And uh, there is a hospital here in Bocas, right here on close to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was there once years ago to get a COVID vaccine, but I don't really know much about it. Um, it's definitely a place you can go and get stitches or, get some basic medical care.
Yeah.
But you can also get on that plane and be in Panama City in an hour. That's an
Okay.
international city with good hospitals and everything you could want. And you could also be on a plane to Colombia if you'd rather go there. So yeah, a
Yeah.
friend of mine just went to Colombia for shoulder surgery.
Oh, wow.
Um, so we're not too far from civilization, but yeah, you're right. Healthcare is different.
Yeah.
I just eat healthy and stay clean and hope for the best. That's
Well,
about all I can
and
do.
that kind of ties into something else that is it something I wanted to really get at with you as far as the topic, because in listening to your most recent podcast with Gunnar Christensen, you guys kind of touched upon this. I don't remember specifically what it was that you said, but I just remember thinking, that's something that is, the whole thing of aging and sailing, especially again solo sailing, and the things that, like, I remember you talking to him about some of the meditation exercises and things, how that benefits you, not just with your physical, or I'm sorry, your mental state of mind, but also like physically keeping you healthy as well by
Hmm.
practicing meditation. And so I'm kind of curious, I think you're pretty close in age to me. I want to say I think you're a year younger than me, maybe. And you've been doing this lifestyle for, let's see, how long has it been now? You've been living on Windflower, like 5 years?
Since October of 19.
Oh
So
yeah,
we're getting
wow. So
close to 6 years.
6 years. Yeah, holy
Yeah.
moly. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm in my mid 50s.
Yep. So let's kind of talk about some of the things. I mean, I noticed just even from my starting my kayaking, and I've been since now we're getting out of summer, of course, but once I started riding my bike again, I've noticed my balance is definitely way better than it was. I remember thinking earlier this year, oh
Hmm.
man, why do I feel like, I always joke about this with some of my older friends. They say they'll practice standing on one foot like so many seconds per
Yeah.
day, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But sailing is something that's really great for challenging your balance, and I'm sure helping strengthen it. But what are some of those things that you find uh, that you do to kind of help you stay able to kind of continue living the lifestyle that you live?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is daily yoga, stretching. Um, and so, yeah, every single day I do some yoga and stretches. I say yoga, but it's a combination of yoga that I've learned and just stretches that I feel like I need. And I meditate, like you said earlier, and I don't drink or smoke or do any drugs. I eat healthy food. Uh, I stay active. One of the biggest dangers of old age is becoming inactive and your body just getting more and more prone to injury.
Right.
And I stay active, and I also live in such a way that um you know when the time comes for me to die, I won't feel like I missed out.
Yeah.
If it comes right after this interview, the last 6 years of my life have been so much better than the previous 40 or 50 or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Uh,
I
it,
can
it's
hear
just
the
been that good.
I can hear the authenticness of that.
Yeah.
It made me kind of have to well up with tears in my eyes
Yeah,
because
you got to get out and live.
yeah,
And, and
yeah,
and the more you live and the more active you are, the the more healthy you are physically and mentally. People can sail into their older age. Jean-Luc Van de Heede won the Golden Globe race all the way
yeah,
around the world,
yep,
single-handed at
yeah,
73 years old.
yeah,
73.
yeah,
There's people that I surf with. There's a guy I surf with who's 69 who surfs very well.
yeah.
There's another guy who's older than him that surfs. I surf with a guy in the Bahamas who was 83. He's paddling
Wow,
out in
yeah,
overhead waves on a
right on.
longboard. Yeah, 83. He'd
Yeah,
he'd take his time and paddle all the way out to the outside on the longboard and catch one wave and ride it all the way in and then take a break and stoke everybody out. Every time you walk out of the water, that guy would say something like, "Hey, Paul, saw that last wave. You're so great, man. That was awesome. Good job, dude. Yeah, high five."
that's
Like
cool. That's so
everybody that comes
cool.
out of the water, he says something like that. It's just
Yeah,
full of stoke and happiness
yeah,
and he's 83 and he probably feels the same way I do. Like when his time comes, he's gonna feel like he's lived his best life and it's no big deal.
yeah,
But imagine the other end of that. You just play it safe all your life and you don't chase your dreams and you don't have such a great time. And when the time comes, you're gonna regret not
yeah,
getting out and chasing your dreams and doing cool stuff. And even if doing cool stuff is simple, like you said, kayaking,
yep,
yeah, get out there and do it. Any way to, I mean, for me, anything that gets you out on the water is awesome, whether it's a
that's
kayak or a motorboat or a surfboard or just nothing, you're just swimming. It's great. It's a wonderful place to be. I think any means of getting on the water is fantastic.
yeah. I
Or getting
totally
out in nature.
yes.
We could take it another step and say just getting out in nature, whether it's just stepping outside of your house and
Oh
looking at your
yeah,
flower garden,
yep,
you know, or going for a hike in the woods or anything that gets you out exposed to nature. That's what it's all about. Nature is, I mean, I'm not a very religious person, but I believe that nature is God's house.
yeah. I do too. Yep.
When
I
Jesus was talking about his house or his father's
yeah,
house, I think he meant nature. He meant outside the
yeah, yeah.
real world.
That's so true. I find one of the things I bought for my kayak is a pair of field binoculars because
Oh,
I
nice.
love being able to just watch wildlife from the perspective of
Yeah,
being
now you
out on
can
the
kayak
water.
and bird watch.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And like
Oh
the
yeah.
other day, I don't know about your neck of the woods, but up here, the butterflies are going crazy. Like in all of our wildflower flowers that we have around our property, they're just like, I mean, tons of them, just like
Nice.
totally going nuts. And I just love watching them. It's like I feel like I'm in some sort of fairy tale land because they're just like flying all around me. And it's just these things that you just kind of become more acutely aware of that
Hmm.
just these simple things that maybe for the first 40 some years of my life that I just kind of took for granted or didn't really give much thought about. And then now I can just sit there and just be still and just absorb and just not even think, but just feel what the energy that's coming from what I'm witnessing.
Hmm.
It's pretty incredible. I wanted to read this to you because I thought that this would be something that would pique your interest. I think I shared recently with this podcast I came across called the Ageless Athlete, and I came across a
Hmm.
posting of this gentleman who's 82. I think his name is Jim. I have to look that back up, but this is a quote that he wrote on his. He's a climber. He says, "I never wanted the tallest peaks. I wanted the hardest lines, the ones where survival wasn't guaranteed. At 82, I still dream of new climbs. It's not about being the strongest anymore. It's about choosing well, knowing when to turn back, and still looking forward. That's how you keep climbing on the mountain and in life." And here it says name right here. His name is Jim Donini. So I don't really know much about this gentleman, but I just came across this post or this quote rather, and it just really struck me at his age and to hear him in some ways give us these words of advice about how I guess what I want to say in some ways it's kind of for me I've noticed I've had to sort of adapt sometimes the things that I love to do that maybe I noticed maybe I maybe I don't feel as safe doing them anymore, or I feel like for some, like downhill skiing. Here's an example. The last time I went downhill skiing, and by the way, I went to school, college in Colorado because I wanted to downhill ski because I loved it so much. However, fast forward decades later, I'm skiing in Washington State, and I think this is in 2018, and I'm heading down this slope, and I'm thinking, what is wrong with my knees?
Oh no.
And it was this sort of moment of where I realized, holy cow, like what's going on with my body? And ever since then, I've kind of noticed incrementally over time that things just aren't as
Yeah.
and I take good
Yeah.
care of myself. Like you talk about, like, you know, you do, I don't drink and smoke either, or do drugs. I mean, I've been a vegetarian since I was 17. Not that I mean, there's plenty of people who are very healthy eating meat. So I don't mean to say that it's not healthy to eat meat. But my point is that I've tried to, you know, take care of myself. But I think what I've been trying to learn to do is sort of embrace, I mean, maybe you could call it aging gracefully, and how to keep aging gracefully doing the things we love to do. And I'm just curious for you, since you are such an active person outdoors. I mean, I know you used to ride mountain bikes and you raced competitively. And then I know you got into I don't know if you were sort of into the water sports as a younger person too. Like, so like now you're free diving and spearfishing and surfing. Like, did you sort of find those sorts of activities when you were younger, or did you kind of come into those more once you got into sailing? Because I think you were 40, in your late 40s when you started getting into sailing, right?
I was. Yeah. When I was younger, I was always very into what access I had to water, which was swimming pools. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I was always at the pool. I was on the swim team. I swam underwater as a kid. I loved swimming underwater. My friends and I would see how far we could swim underwater, at the pool. Um, and then I got into canoeing. West Virginia, landlocked, but with rivers. So I discovered canoeing, loved it. When I moved to Florida for college, I got into, or right before then, I scuba dived for the first time. So I moved to Florida for college, continued scuba diving when I had the opportunity, got into surfing. Um, and then later I discovered free diving in the springs of Florida, freshwater. It's fantastic. The sinkholes that are full of water now with cave systems underneath that are connected to the aquifer, basically. Uh, it's 100% clear, fresh water there's a bunch of them in Florida, in
That
Central
sounds so
Florida.
cool.
They're absolutely amazing. A lot of them are connected to rivers. A lot of them feed rivers. But anyway, a lot of them are state parks as well. But you can free dive, and they're fantastic for free diving, or scuba diving. Some of them, cave divers, travel from all over the world to dive the cave system at Jenny Springs, for instance. But you can also free dive there. So I
Wow.
discovered free diving, and a lot of those are deep, 60 feet or 100 feet. So I got into that, and then when I started sailing, of course, free diving goes hand in hand with sailing in the tropics. You can dive on under your anchor, you can dive and spearfish, you can swim all over the coral reefs. It's like scuba diving, but you don't need a tank. You don't stay down nearly as long, but you can be out there. You can be snorkeling and then dive down 50 feet if you want to.
Wow.
And that goes hand in hand with spearfishing, because you don't spearfish with scuba. You're not allowed to in the Bahamas or here in Panama. And it works better anyway, spearfishing while freediving, because you want to get your fish back to the surface and into the boat right away. So you can do that freediving.
And that's because of the dangers of sharks, right? Is that why?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to drag around a stringer with fish on your hip while you're
Right.
swimming in water with sharks. But that's what scuba divers who spearfish do. And but anyway, I don't scuba and spearfish. I don't scuba at all anymore.
I think you did talk about that in one of your podcasts too recently, which, by the way, I should say, I didn't name your podcast, the Offshore Sailing and Cruising Podcast, which I listened to religiously for years, and support on Patreon. Little plug there, because
Yes.
I love your podcast. But I think you were
Thank you.
talking something about were you talking about that with Gunner, maybe about the scuba and the spearfishing? There was
Somebody
something.
recently.
Yeah.
That was my other. golly, have you listened to
Dream Chasers, maybe?
the latest on Dream Chasers yet? Which actually releases tomorrow, but I put it out on my website yesterday. If you've heard that with David Olson, the publisher of Kelp Journal, he was just talking about somebody getting bit by a shark in California while
Oh
while
gosh.
scuba diving and spearfishing. So it's possible you heard that, or it's possible Gunnar and I were talking about it too. But
But is there something, so you were saying that you're not allowed to do that in the Bahamas, scuba and
right,
spearfish. Is that just because you could just be, if you're scuba diving, you
yeah, they
have
make it hard. They make it harder to get the fish in the Bahamas.
yeah.
You can't use scuba and you can't use a spear gun. You have to use a
Okay.
pole spear or a Hawaiian
Oh,
sling, a
yeah.
primitive weapon,
Yeah.
and you have to hold your breath. And in Panama, we can use spear guns, but we still can't scuba and spearfish. Yeah, it's to protect the fish,
Yeah. Yeah.
give them
That
more of a
makes
fighting
sense.
chance.
I think that's one of
Yeah.
the things I always love about you too, is that you always are trying to educate people on how to stay ecologically, environmentally, conscientious
Hmm.
about impact when we
Hmm.
participate in these things. And I know it sounds maybe kind of silly, but I think about that too. One thing that comes to mind is erosion, and a lot of the power boats in my neck of the woods they're basically Corps of Engineer lakes that are around where I live. There's plenty of them, and I noticed that maybe it was last season. I have a 23-foot sailboat that I keep on this lake here locally, and my bigger one's up on Lake Superior. But uh, they finally reduced. They made a no wake zone, and I got to thinking. I wonder if that had something to do with erosion. Why they did, not to mention safety, because it is of safety concerns too, with having all these boats literally zooming across each other's paths of travel, and it's very hazardous. But I think it
Yeah.
was probably more so from an ecological stand or point of view that they might have created these no wake zones. But you're really good about trying to educate people about these sorts of things in a lot of these areas where we dream about going, but we maybe never have been. So it's really great that you do that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's important. I mean, as humans, it's impossible not to have an environmental impact, but it's
Yeah,
but it's good
right.
to minimize it, and think about when you can minimize your impact, you should minimize your impact. And there's definitely certain things we shouldn't do as sailors, like anchoring on coral, for instance, a big no-no. I watched a boat this morning coming into anchor near me, and I was like, "Oh God, please don't anchor there! Please don't anchor there!" And the guy immediately, like I saw the sailboat come to a stop, and then he put it in reverse. He started backing up. I'm like, "Okay, good."
Yeah.
He realized he was heading towards coral, and he's backing out of there. Yeah, there's things like that to watch that we shouldn't be doing. Spearfishing, you shouldn't grab a hold of the coral reef. You shouldn't touch coral. You shouldn't touch it at all. It's a colony of very fragile little jellyfish-like creatures that make up hard, stony coral, and
Hmm.
they can be killed just by touching them. So there's a good bit of things we can do to minimize our impact. Um, those are a couple that are on my mind regularly.
Hmm.
Being careful where you anchor, not touching coral.
Yeah. So with surfing, is that something you did in college too when you
Yeah, I
were?
learned how to I learned how to surf as a freshman in college in Melbourne, Florida, and I've been surfing ever since. It's my favorite thing in the world. I just can't get enough. It keeps me healthy, keeps me connected to nature. It's fun. It just makes life, wonderful. Sometimes it's just more fun than you can even imagine. You just can't believe how much fun you just have when you
Yeah.
get
I've
away.
never I've never done it before, but it's there's a lot of sailors that seem to kind of coordinate the surfing lifestyle. Like I think Captain Liz Clark is one that comes to mind. With that, she's the lady that wrote the book
Liz
Swell.
Clark, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I read her
And
book.
Olivia Wyatt, I know
Yep.
she always downplays her surfing ability, but I think that she can hold her own from what it sounds like when
Yeah,
when
she can surf. I
when I
mean, if you
see
can
her a
surf at
little.
all, it's fun. That's one of the great things about it. Like
Yeah,
it's fun, even the first time I tried, I thought it was fun. And I
yeah.
couldn't do it at all.
I think I've only I have to say that I've boogie boarded before on the Atlantic,
Yeah, the first time
but
I The
No
first time I
surfing.
tried to surf was on a boogie board. I wasn't really surfing. There were some friends had a boogie board at the beach, and I had just moved to Florida, and I said, "Wow, can I try that?" And they said, "Sure."
Yeah.
And I took it out, and I felt the power of the wave, the acceleration and the dropping into the wave, and
Yeah,
just right on the shore, just getting pushed right up onto the beach. But immediately I knew, I said, I have to get a surfboard. Like this
yeah.
is
My
I'm gonna
husband,
go
he
buy a
grew up
surfboard right away.
surfing, and I mean, I think that I'm sure if he could have his druthers, he would put us on some coast of
Hmm.
living so that he could continue surfing, but he hasn't done it in years. And I would have to say, um, I'm sure, I don't know if it's something that's like riding a bicycle or not, but I think when, like I said, getting to the age that we are right now, I think it requires a lot of, um, I don't know. I feel like I want to say a level of dedication and on a different level of dedication to our bodies
Yeah,
to keep us doing
yeah,
these things we love to do. So, kind
yeah.
of circling back to that Jim Donini quote, and you did mention some things about uh, your yoga and your diet as some
Hmm.
things that you do, and then of course the meditation. Uh, you know, do, I'm just curious, are there other things that you do, or have you noticed um, as you've gotten older as a sailor? Have you noticed that there's things that may, like weighing anchor? I don't know if you have an electric windlass or not. I mean, are there things that you notice that have become more difficult as you
Hmm.
age as a sailor?
Yeah.
And how you and
Yes.
how do you compensate for that?
Yeah. So joints, knees and shoulders are getting more vulnerable. I've injured my shoulders just from surfing for too long. There's one particular day a couple of years ago here. I just stayed out too long. I started getting sharp pain in my shoulders, and I kept going anyway because paddling, the same motion as swimming, is like the main muscle output for surfing. The actual standing on the board is only a matter of seconds. Then you got to paddle back out to where. Uh, so anyway, that's the main thing, shoulders, and so I've talked to physical therapists about it, and they've recommended certain stretches and exercises, and now I do them all the time. And of course, knees go bad, in
Yeah,
all of us. And but just from looking at surf exercise stuff on Instagram, I've discovered some knee exercises and knee stretches, mobility exercises uh, for the knees specifically, and I do them now. So you got to stay up on that kind of stuff.
yeah.
A friend of mine just dislocated his shoulder, a surfer dislocated his shoulder. In fact, I rescued him. I swam to him
Oh
and
my.
pulled him out of the impact zone and got him to his boat.
Oh gosh. Wow.
Um, just dislocated, separated, broken shoulder, very serious injury. He's the guy who just went to Colombia to get it operated on. But
Did he
so
do that and get like in like falling off a wave, or did he?
yeah, in a
Oh,
wipeout.
wow.
Yeah, he just wiped out. It wasn't a particularly bad wipeout, but it was a wipeout, and I think he had dislocated the shoulder once before.
Hmm.
But sure, these things happen. I've hurt my back sailing before. One of the first times I docked my first sailboat, I came in too hot, too fast, and
Hmm.
got a line around a piling and tried to
Oh yeah.
tried to slow my boat
The
down,
boat will
and
win, not you, right?
yeah, my back
Yeah.
took a shot. Once you've injured your back, it's
Yeah.
always vulnerable.
I
I
hear
had a
you.
bomb-proof steel back, up until that point in my life, and now I have to be careful
Yeah,
not
that's
to
same
injure it.
for me. Yep. In fact, I think
Yeah,
which is it the I have to say you're I think I told you I wrote a review for this book of yours because you've written so many books I know, and I've read all of your nonfiction sailing books, and I love them all. But I do have to say, the Becoming a Sailor, I
yeah,
think it's in that book too, which is I'm going to again circle back to why I thought of this book of yours is because didn't you in that was it that book where you talk about, and I think I asked you this on a Patreon question once too, about the system that you
yeah,
devised with the
yeah. You're making an
taking,
X with your hands.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, I love
yeah.
that. I really, unfortunately, where my boat is now up in Superior, um, so the wells, the wells or the slips are two boats to a well, and then
Hmm.
and there's no piling in the middle to separate the boat.
Oh,
So I couldn't really do the X with that,
yeah.
which would be really great because that boat is a lot heavier than my other sailboat, and it would be nice to have that. Can you kind of just briefly tell our listeners about that strategy? That because I think that's super
Yeah.
clever.
Yeah. When I bought my first sailboat, it was a 30-foot boat. I had no experience driving a sailboat besides the week-long class I took. And the scariest thing to me was docking. You don't want to crash into your neighbor. You don't want to destroy your boat. Steering a boat in tight situations is extremely unpredictable when you're a novice, especially. So, and I was solo. I didn't have anyone to be on board to help me, and I kept thinking there's got to be something I can do to make it easier to pull my boat into the slip and prevent me from crashing. And somehow I came up with taking two long lines, ropes. We call them lines. Two long ropes and creating a horizontal X from the pilings that would be behind my boat to the dock that would be in front of my boat, so that it would be like a catcher's mitt. So when the boat comes into the slip, these ropes, which would be pulled tight, would catch my boat right in the center of my slip and bring it to a stop before it crashed into the dock, and also prevent it from going left or right, where it would crash into either the dock or my neighbor's boat. And it works. It works great.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds so clever. I could do that on the my smaller boat that I have here.
Hmm.
But I have my husband, or the first mate as I call him. He's between the two of us, we usually got it covered, and the boat's only 23 feet long, and it has an outboard engine.
Yeah.
So it's actually a new outboard engine because the other one that we had was so finicky and it would die at the most inopportune times, like when you're trying to dock the boat or leaving
Hmm.
the dock. But like I said, reading that, was it in Becoming a Sailor
It
where
must
you
have been. Yeah.
wrote about that? It must have been,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's when you first got your Dufour, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
But that book though, like I said, I love all your books, but this one, something about uh, that book, the voice that you have, your
Yeah.
writer's voice in this book, it's just it's kind of dreamy. Like it's like it's
That's the state of mind I was in at the time.
yeah, it's like I think you had just maybe finished reading Bernard Montessier's book too, The Long Way. I'm pretty sure because
Yeah,
you mentioned
definitely.
him a lot in that book, I think, if I remember
Yeah.
right. But
Yep.
but I just feel like in fact I've been wanting to reread that because I feel like it evokes this sort of I don't want to say innocence, that's not the right word, or rebirth, or it's just this the newness of sailing for you
Hmm.
as a solo sailor, like literally like becoming,
Yeah.
a
I
sailor.
sensed that was happening, and that's why I started writing the book. I realized, that I was about to do something that was unrepeatable in my life. It was
Right.
going to be
Yes.
unrepeatable. I was going to sail for the first time offshore solo 1,000 miles to get this boat home. And I knew no matter what I did in the future, I would never be able to repeat such an experience because it was going to be my first time.
Yeah.
And I thought, I got to capture this, I got to write about it.
Yeah.
And
How amazing that you documented that, right? And you can look back on that,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
others can experience in your voice this uh, this really special is such an understatement time of a sailor's life, you know?
yeah, it was an amazing time. It was also my second year of sobriety, or
Oh,
first or
yeah.
second year. It was right then too. Everything was changing in my life right then. Like
Yeah.
I had been drinking heavily and smoking weed for a long time,
Yeah.
the
I
majority
remember.
of my
Yeah.
life. And all of a sudden I was sober, and it was like going through puberty, or waking up after,
An awakening. Yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
it was like not being sick anymore for the first time in my life. It was like my mind turned, a part of my mind that had been turned off for most of my life turned back on, and I felt like a child again. Uh, you know that like silly, goofy happiness you have as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of goes away as you get older. Like that came
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Totally.
know,
It's
that
yes.
that open, clean, sponge-like,
Yep.
happy-go-lucky mind
Just pure joy,
came
happiness, and
back. Yeah.
unfiltered happiness.
Yeah, because that goes away when your mind starts to rely on drugs to be happy. And that's what
Yeah.
happens when you drink beer every day, or you smoke weed every day, or you drink beer and smoke weed every day.
Yeah.
Your body starts to rely on that for happiness, and it doesn't have to create its own happiness anymore. So it kind of forgets how. And
Yeah.
that's why people who are addicted to those kind of drugs have to have them, because they'll be miserable without them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
until you go through the whole withdrawal phase of life, which is pretty difficult.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But then you're like a child again. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, look at me right now. I'm smiling just thinking about
I
it.
know. I can see it's palpable, even from all these thousands of miles across
Yeah,
space, you know. I was actually
it's
just,
such a wonderful thing.
I was telling my sister, I was just having met her here where I am now to use Wi-Fi. Um, and she was asking me about you because I was telling her I was going to interview you. And so I told her, you know, that I knew about you know, how you found sailing and that it was a sort of a gift that you gave to yourself after having a year of sobriety, right? That you treated
That's
yourself
right.
to a
A
week-long
class.
course of sailing.
Yeah.
I don't remember where, Bahamas or Florida or where it was, but
It was in St. Augustine, Florida, the American
yeah,
Sailing Association's 1 week class, you know, like 101 through 104 or something. It's a
yeah.
one week class.
And that just
Uh,
that's what kind of just
oh
like it
yeah, I
all
took
came
that
together.
class and I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is
Yeah,
definitely what I want to do. This is
yeah,
it's so much fun. You know, the first it's a 7 day class. It's like 8 hours a day. And the first day you go out in a small boat, a 24-foot open deck hunter, and you learn
mm-hmm.
how to sail. You learn the basics, and then the next 6 days you're out in 34, 40-foot cruising boats, like
Yeah,
real sailboats.
yeah,
And we're out there, we're sailing, we're going out the inlet into the ocean. It was just amazing.
yeah,
It was me and an instructor and two other people.
yeah,
So you have like one person on the jib sheet and one on the halyard and one at the wheel, and the instructor telling us what to do, and then we trade places. You know, then now you're on the main sheet and the other person's at the wheel, and you know, pretty quickly you learn how to operate a large boat like that.
yeah.
And then I taught myself how to single hand. I mean, I read some books, Andrew Evans' book
Oh yeah.
particularly, Single
Yeah,
Hand
what was
Sailing.
that book then? Yeah, you talk about that one too in your Becoming a
Yeah,
Sailor.
Andrew Evans is the author. The book is called Single Handed Sailing: Thoughts, Tips, Techniques. Thoughts, Tips, and Techniques. There might be one more T, but anyway, Single Handed Sailing by Andrew Evans. It
Mm-hmm.
straight up tells you how to sail a boat single handed, how to jibe, how to tack, how to hoist a spinnaker, how to jibe a spinnaker, how to sleep, how to all the very detailed, everything you need to know. It's a great book. You read that book and you're like, wow, I can do it.
I
I can do this too. You
I
know?
remember
And you go and
in
you do it.
yeah, and then I think I remember you even talking about that book. I'm sorry, you talking about the steps because I remember in Becoming a Sailor, you actually talk about okay, these are the steps, and there's little steps to do.
Hmm.
Like I'm gonna do this act, whether it's jibing or whatever, and you thought about
Hmm.
the steps, and then I want to say that I think you even brought that up again. You revisited that, if you will, in your Sailing to Newfoundland book too. I feel like
Probably.
I think that you did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crucial to do the right steps in the right order. You can
Yeah.
do anything. If you just do the right things in the right order
In
on
the
a
right
sailboat,
order.
you
Yep.
get out of any situation. You can do anything you
Yeah.
want. You can you can make it happen, and you can do it by yourself, you know. And I've interviewed sailors who sail you know, the big Amoka 65s, you know, the super fast, super high
Yeah.
tech boats. They're sailing these things at 28 knots, you know, around the world. And I say, gosh, how do you do whatever? And you know, they'll tell you the same thing. You just have to do the right events and the right steps in the right order,
Yeah.
and it happens. You make it happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I don't
and you
know those.
gotta it keeps you out of trouble too if you have that mindset when you're sailing, because sometimes things are you wake up, for instance, and something really ugly's happening. You're something, you know, you got too much sail up and it's too windy and the boat's rounding up and you think, oh my God, disaster, I got to act real quick right now. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And that's the wrong mindset. You have to slow down and think, okay, what's the situation? What's the solution? What's the first step? What's the second step? What are all the steps? All right, I've got, you know, 6 steps in my head, and now I'm going to do step one, and now I'm going to do step two,
Right.
and then the solution happens and everything's cool.
Did I
It's
ever tell you the story? I don't know. Well, I guess I probably wouldn't have told you because this happened after we talked last. Well, Actually, maybe it did happen. It was the summer of 2023. So maybe I did tell you about it. But I had sort of a scary situation. We were sailing just on the inland lake where I grew up sailing for like almost 20 years. And great day of sailing. Winds are probably 10 to 12 knots. We were on a starboard tack. My husband was at the helm. I was trimming the jib sheet. And my husband's like, something's loose up there. And I'm thinking, what is he talking about? Something's loose. He's like, yeah, just look up there. So I like leave my, sheet off or cleat off the jib sheet, and I lean over and I look up the mast, and the upper shroud is just totally disconnected.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And
Oh,
so it was weird because you know how, I mean, that saying hindsight is 2020. I kind of hate to say that, but it is always a very applicable sort of thing. But um, I was kind of at first incredulous that this was happening. But then instead of freaking out, like, because I felt like there were these two parts of me, like the guy on this shoulder and the guy on that, are saying, okay, oh my God, what am I going to do? But then there was this other part of me that was like, okay, we got to get the sails down and just let's get, so that's all I was thinking about is, okay, the shout's loose, let's get the sails down. I don't want to lose the rig, What I learned is after this has happened is I think normally you would turn into the wind to drop your sails, right? I didn't have a furling head sail at the time with SkyCon.
hmm.
No, actually, I take that back. I'm sorry, that was my other 20. No, it was a furling head sail. Um, and so I think what I did, I don't even remember sometimes because, to be honest with you, it was just kind of like I just want to get the sails down, and whatever it took is what I did. But I
Yeah.
think I turned into the wind, which I shouldn't have done. Like somebody said to me, no, 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 you should have turned, you should have turned away from the wind because the load was on the starboard shroud because I was on a starboard tack. So I should have turned away from the wind. It ended up being okay, but it still was just one of those moments of where it's just like you said, like you don't want to panic and freak out. Now, I wasn't doing that. It turns out everything ended up okay, but I did end up learning that I should probably would have been better to have turned away from the wind and dropped the sails. But it was kind of counterintuitive because, right, normally you think I turn into the wind to drop the sails, but because the conditions were different, meaning the upper shroud was no longer attached, that changes things a little bit. But that's how you learn these lessons. But
Yeah,
but like you said, most importantly, to not panic. I think that's really the big takeaway.
it is. And it's hard, it's impossible to not panic in every single situation.
Yeah.
I made a mistake on the way back from San Blas. Uh, I got overpowered by a squall and I needed to I needed to reef the sails. I needed to reef the main and I needed to bring the Genoa in. I had the huge Genoa out and the mainsail was all the way up and this, squall hits and all of a sudden the wind is way too much for your sails. And the boat was leaning way over and I, I was turning um, all the way to leeward. The boat was rounding up. It was getting ready to broach. I turned all the way to leeward and it still wouldn't go. So I was basically right on the edge of broaching or I was broaching. So I locked the wheel in place and let the main out. And then the boat immediately turned downwind and jibed.
Oh
Uncontrolled
gosh.
jibe.
Oh
Yeah, and
gosh.
strong wind with the full main up.
Oh
You know,
wow.
yeah,
Oh my
just
gosh.
a potential disaster. Um, it was a mistake. I made a mistake. In retrospect, I could have turned the autopilot on, and it would have instead of having the wheel cranked all the way over and locked in
Mhm.
place, it would have just tried to steer me in the same direction. I could have let the sails out,
What about
done
your
what I needed to
preventer?
do.
Did you always talk about your
Yeah,
advocating for preventer usage?
yeah. The preventer may or may not have been on. It should have been on. I think I might have been going upwind,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing. Like when you're sailing on a close reach, you don't think you need your preventer
Mm-hmm.
because you're sailing upwind. But it's better to put it on there anyway because winds change, things happen, unexpected things happen.
Yeah,
I don't
for sure.
I don't remember now if the preventer was on or not.
Yeah.
But I do remember that it was an uncontrolled jibe, and I remember thinking like, you reacted too quickly. You didn't think about it. You just tried to solve the problem without thinking out the steps first, and
Yeah. I think
that was
it's
the one mistake I made was locking the wheel all the way to leeward.
yeah, it's funny because sometimes like I was saying for me that the in my situation the sort of knee-jerk response was turn into the wind to drop the sails because that's just what that's what you would do if things were normal.
Hmm.
But like you said, the circumstances were different, and that requires it's like a moment of pause before you react.
Hmm.
But it's hard to not react when you're faced with, holy cow, like you said, the boat's going to broach if I don't da da
Yeah.
da, or
I mean, sometimes you feel like there's no time to stop and think.
yeah,
If you think your
yeah,
rig's about to come down right now, like,
yeah.
yeah, maybe you need to go ahead and do something right now.
Yeah, I guess like cross our fingers while we do these things. I don't know, but it's interesting because you have a lot of years of offshore experience, and I guess and I mean I have a lot of years of sailing, but not offshore. I mean it's all like I said, not to downplay, but I mean it's relevant experience, but it's still not like sorts of
Absolutely.
the conditions that you are going to encounter when you're sailing offshore like you have. But my point is that even people with experience, we make mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's just that's part of our process of it's like they always say. I mean, it's kind of silly in some ways because it gets said a lot, but it's still the point is still very important and not silly at all, which is that sailing it means you're never going to master it. I mean, it's just there's always lessons to be learned from it. It's always going to be there's always the possibility of some situation we've never encountered or even just like I know you've talked about this too, that you have mentioned in a podcast that where you've interviewed people where you learn so much by reading a lot of sailing nonfiction, maybe John
Yeah.
Kretschmer and some other authors out there and their experiences. And I'm the same way. I've read, I don't know, I have a whole list of books that I read on my website for people to check out that I'm like, these are great, sailing nonfiction. And you learn by reading other people's experience too. But there is something to be said for when you're actually in a moment in the real world that this thing happens. And you can sort of sometimes reflect back on learning from what other people's experiences have been that you read about in their stories and books. But there may be just that one thing that you've never read about or that that could happen. It just
Yeah, for sure.
that's kind of
Yeah,
what
strange things happen.
keeps it exciting in some ways, but also terrifying and humble. It really keeps you humble.
Yeah.
Uh, I would assume that that's very the same sort of thing that I mean, I'm guessing you would feel that way about surfing just as much, right? Probably. I mean, isn't there always something the ocean is trying to teach you every time you go out and surf? Waves are always different and conditions.
Yeah. Yeah, you get humbled a lot surfing.
Yeah.
Um, that uh, the gosh, it makes us all superstitious too, like
Mhm.
surfing
Yeah.
does, because
Even sailing. I
it's
mean, don't
it's
sail
like
with
you have
bananas.
to, yeah,
Don't
you
leave on
have
a
to.
Friday.
Well, it's more like, to me, it's more like respect, like always
Yeah.
show respect to the ocean, as if the ocean were a living thing that was paying attention to what you said and what you did.
Right.
Uh, um, I mean, I eat bananas I've got bananas on the boat right now, but I would never, there were certain, I would never say out loud something disrespectful to the ocean. I would never curse the ocean.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like that's what I'm superstitious about.
Yeah.
Same with surfing. Like you always got to show respect. Uh, Mother Nature might be listening. I don't know. I kind of feel like nature is an agent of karma.
Yeah.
Like if you have bad karma, nature will clear it out for you, but it's going to clear it out by punishing you,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's great because you don't want to die with your bad karma. You
Right.
want to go ahead and clear it out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
for
don't know.
sure.
That's a very superstitious thing to say, but I do kind of feel that's the case.
I think
And that's why people that spend a lot of time in nature are well balanced, humble,
yeah.
usually kind people, that are forgiving,
Respectful. Yep.
respectful people.
Yeah.
It develops this sense of respect in you. Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. Surfing, it happens. Sailing. Um, you know, uh, it and it really enriches your life because of it.
I agree. I think it's our constant teacher. It's our constant source of inspiration. But it also, I don't like to say, it reminds us who's boss, but it's true that it puts us, uh, and I don't want to say in our place, but it just, yeah, I guess like you said, just it keeps us humble, and it keeps us making sure that we're doing the best that we can to
Hmm.
be a better steward of nature,
Yeah.
of ourselves, the people around us. I mean, yeah. If I don't have that in my life, if I don't have nature in my life, I always feel um, depressed. I feel
Yep.
yeah, hopelessness. I think. I mean, I shouldn't laugh.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Seriously,
nature
I
is where
do.
we evolved.
Yeah.
Nature is where we evolved. Humans have been animals that look like humans have been on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years. We've looked roughly like humans for like 300,000 years.
Yeah.
And you go back before that, and we're just vaguely different.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can go back as far as you want. Our ancestors have always lived in nature. There's
Right.
uh, that's where we're comfortable. That's where we feel right.
Yeah.
That's where everything about us was made to evolved in.
Yeah.
It's a response to living there. Our eyes, our hands, our mind, our emotions, everything. It all makes sense in nature,
Yeah.
and it all suffers in man-made environments, to a certain degree.
It's funny how something can be so comforting to us and such a source of inspiration, but it also, like I said, it can be in some ways resemble our own human emotional from A to Z spectrum, right? Because people
Hmm.
can interpret nature as being angry. When you think
Hmm.
about hurricanes or volcanic
Yeah.
eruptions or earthquakes or
Yeah.
whatever, it's kind of interesting to me.
Well, it'll toughen you up,
Well,
you
I,
know?
I could I could go on and on about like how I feel it's its own conscious of it's got its own conscience, and how we as humans tap into that and
Yeah.
animals tap into that, and
It might. I mean, what if Earth is a conscious being? We just
yeah,
can't
yeah,
communicate with it directly to realize that. Or the
yeah,
sun. What if the sun
yeah,
is a conscious being too? It might be. I don't know.
yeah. I feel like I mean, even a rock. I mean, I not to sound like I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Have
be
you, have you heard of
provocative.
pan consciousness? Have you
You
heard
know,
of
I
pan consciousness?
yeah, I came across that at some point recently. And so kind of can you
Yeah, Tim Ferriss interviewed somebody on his show. On the Tim Ferriss show, he interviewed a
uh
guy who was talking about pan consciousness. It's a concept I'd never heard of, but that's
can
what
you
they
tell
believe.
do you remember like yeah, has a conscience?
Everything has a conscious. Yeah,
Yeah.
some degree, some form of it, not necessarily in a complicated consciousness, but
Right.
something. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily believe it, but I accept that it might be the case.
I think I do believe it. I don't know why, but it's just a feeling, I guess I would say. But and the other thing I would say too, which may sound strange, is that I think even like our boats, my car, my bicycle, all these
Yeah,
things, I mean, a chair, they're all made or create, well, not going to be the case maybe moving forward with AI and all that. Don't get me going on that. But you know
geez.
what I mean? They were all touched by humans, right, to create these things.
Yeah,
And so in some way, I feel that they have a soul of their own, so to speak, or a conscious of their own, because they come from beings like us who put our energy goes in to make that object or
yeah,
whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard not to feel that way about something like a sailboat
Oh yeah.
or a car.
Yeah, I totally. And my bike, I feel that way about my bike and my kayak.
Yeah,
Oh gosh, yeah.
yeah.
It's just it's funny. I kind of feel like I wish Owen Murphy was here because I interviewed
You
him
would
once.
have something to say on this
Yeah,
subject.
he's really always got really cool things to say about that stuff too. I
Yep.
want to be really, I know I said an hour and I just saw we only have like 6 minutes left, and I wanted to, give you some time to kind of tell people about all these sorts of exciting projects that you've recently let out into the world, and the other things kind of going on, because you do have another podcast aside from offshore sailing and cruising that I wanted people to know about, because I also listened to it as well, the Dream Chasers and Eccentrics. So I just kind of want to turn the floor over to you to sort of let our listeners know about different fun things that you've been doing creatively with the world with your contributions.
Well, thanks. Yes, my other podcast is called Dream Chasers and Eccentrics, and I started that so I could interview anybody I wanted because offshore sailing and cruising, I only interview sailors. And Dream Chasers and Eccentrics has I've interviewed a lot of authors. I really enjoyed talking to authors. The most recent person I interviewed was a publisher who's also an author and a surfer. Um, Another thing that I've been doing is my Substack page. It's paultrammell.substack.com, and Substack is like a platform for writers to share their work. And so it's a subscription. It's free. You subscribe and you get an email once a month from me, and it's a free short story. So I write a short story every month, publish it on Substack. It goes to all the subscribers' emails. And I also publish poetry and book reviews there. So let's see. I've written 3 books with Tapio Lehtinen now. The most recent is Polestar and Albatross, about his Ocean Globe race in 2023 when he sailed around the world in his Swan 55 yawl, 1972 Swan. And then before that is the last voyage of Asteria when his boat sank. He's sailing in the 2022 Golden Globe race. His boat sank right out from under him. We were planning on writing a book about the race, so he had been taking extensive notes. And luckily, in Cape Town, before he sank, he sent me his log, so I had all that. And then it was 2 weeks after that his boat sank, so he was able to recount the rest of it. And then he was, ended up on a cargo ship soon after that. I mean, he was rescued by the woman who won the race. How incredible is that?
Yeah, that's pretty
Kirsten
wild.
Neuschafer. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kirsten Neuschafer rescued him
yeah.
and then transferred him to a cargo ship. Anyway, that book's called The Last Voyage of Asteria.
I can't even
I'm
imagine something like that happening as a
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, he woke up to a loud bang. He had his lee cloths up so he wouldn't fall out of bed. So by the time he got the lee cloths out of the way and set foot, he was knee deep in water.
Talk about what you do to react to a situation like that, right?
Yeah, so you got to prepare for that as an offshore sailor. You got to have grab bags ready to go and a life raft ready to go. And he was able to launch the life raft and get one grab bag that had his communication gear in it, and that's all he had. I got into his
Yeah.
survival suit. So he
Yeah.
did 3 things: launched the life raft, put on the survival suit, got the first grab bag, didn't have time to launch the EPIRB, didn't have time to grab his other grab bag, which would have had
Right.
clothes and food and his passport. He didn't have his passport. He didn't even have his reading glasses.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my.
he needed them. He wore like +4 or something.
Now he has bionic eyes though, so he doesn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, he got LASIK because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm also working on another novel called Identity Crisis that takes place. It's like a thriller that takes place on a sailboat. The premise there is a guy goes overboard and he had picked up a hitchhiker, a woman, and I took on a female hitchhiker in the Bahamas a couple of years ago, and my mother asked me to send her a picture of myself every day while I had her on board. And I afterwards I was talking to my father and I said, it was kind of funny, mom wanted me to send her a picture every day. I guess she was worried I wasn't going to be happy or something. I don't know. And dad said, no, Paul, no, Paul. He says she was worried that she was going to kill you and throw you overboard and steal your boat and then impersonate you
Wow.
through text, through text
Whoa.
messages, just pretend to be you. And I'm like, what? I'm like, that's a novel. That's a, there's a
Wow.
story. So I've
That
written the
is.
book. I'm just editing it and massaging it now.
Oh, wow.
But that's the
Yeah.
premise of the book. It definitely goes deep into the psyche of both her and him, and the story continues. It's dark. You might call it sailing noir.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm working on that. My latest novel is called Till They Bury Me. It's about a couple that high school sweethearts who re-encounter each other later in life, and just remember all the good things about each other and get married right away, and then realize that they both they're both kind of in trouble now.
Is that autobiographical?
Oh, I mean, all
Or
novels
has
are autobiographical a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Because when you
It's,
said this thing about your mom, it made me wonder if there was some element of you're right. I think it's really kind of hard to. I think fiction writing is so difficult. But anyway, I'm interrupting. I'm sorry.
yeah. Anyway, that book is called Until They Bury Me, and it might be made into a film. It's in the hands of a
Oh,
couple of actors right now who have made their own films.
did you announce that on your podcast? Because I feel like
Probably.
I feel
Yeah,
like
I've
I had
probably said
heard
that.
that somewhere.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
It's
Wow, Paul,
yeah,
that's
it's just a
awesome.
chance. It's just a chance, but it's a chance. Makes me feel good about it. They
Oh
liked the
my
book enough to
gosh.
consider doing that. So I wrote a screenplay. It's not like
I
I
was
gave them the
about to
book.
ask.
They
Yeah.
read the book and asked for a screenplay. So I learned how to write screenplays
Oh, you did. That's so
and wrote a
cool.
screenplay. Yeah. Yeah, it was
Wow.
fun. It's a great exercise writing a screenplay. It's like taking a book and you have to cut about two-thirds of it, and you have to rewrite the whole thing
Hmm.
as a screenplay in screenplay format. And it was a lot of work, but it was fun and it was educational. And I
Wow.
studied other
Yeah.
screenplays. I studied Taxi Driver,
The Jodie
and
Foster and Robert De Niro, right? Was that
yeah,
the movie?
what a great film. Yeah,
Yeah. I don't think I ever
yeah.
saw that actually. Now that I think of it, I haven't
Oh,
ever
it's on
seen that one.
Netflix. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
good. It's so good.
She's
Yeah,
really
it's a
super
classic.
young in that, isn't she? Like only like 12 or something?
Oh, she plays an adult, but she's young for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Robert
I'll
De
have to check
Niro's.
that one out.
They're both like playing people in their 20s probably.
Hmm.
Um,
What's so
yeah,
exciting
fantastic.
about your Until They Bury Me becoming a movie? Wow.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
That's
But
so
anyway,
cool.
it's a book and an audiobook right now. So
Yeah.
people can find it easily on Amazon.
And speaking of finding you, what about all of you've got a lot of different online avenues for people to get in touch. And what are some of those ways people can get in touch with you?
My website is paultrammell.com, Trammell,
Mhm.
paultrammell.com.
Mhm.
And you can find everything there. I'm on Instagram as trammell.paul. Um, I got a YouTube channel that I don't take very seriously, but I do. I have a lot of sailing stuff on there. I used to take it more seriously.
Yeah,
I never
YouTube is
made it. I
tough.
never made it like the stereotypical sailing YouTube channels they have out now. They're kind of like reality TV shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just took video while sailing offshore and strung them together and made some videos. But you can see like what it's
Yeah.
really like to
Yeah.
go on a long passage offshore, and you can see me solo talking like a guy who hasn't slept enough,
Yeah, I think
but making it
I
happen.
love that. It seems like a lot of the ones I have to be honest with you, I've kind of lost interest in the past couple of years in sailing YouTube stuff because a lot of it just seems like it was just going in the direction of uh,
Yeah,
not
it's all
really
like TV shows
it's
now.
not really sailing. It's like, it's I mean it is that's kind of like the backstory. And I mean I guess that's what people are interested in, like the human dynamics sort of thing, which it is interesting too to some extent, but when it becomes more about bikinis and palm trees and it's like, I
Sure.
mean that has its place I guess because people do dress that way.
Yeah,
It's a
they're
lifestyle, but
making what sells, trying to make
yeah.
a living, and and what sells is reality TV
Yeah.
show type stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but if you really want to watch real sailors offshore, you can find those kind of channels too.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're out there. I like to read. I'm not a big YouTube
Yeah.
watcher. I'm not a
I'm
YouTube watcher at
more
all, actually.
yeah, that's totally, in fact, my own YouTube channel, I've really scaled back on it because I just decided, well, I kind of came to the realization that it's not really worth putting, it's not really worth it to me to spend the amount, because I spent inordinate amounts of time, not just on the filming, but on the
Yeah,
editing and everything. It just was hours and
yeah,
hours of time that I just felt like I would get an occasional bonehead comment come in that was just so disrespectful or negative or hurtful or whatever. And I just realized
Those people are out there. Yeah.
I just don't have the thick skin for it. And I just find that I'd rather spend the time writing, maybe taking some photos and maybe sharing that. And yeah, I actually took down a lot of my stuff because I just was like, this is just, I did this to find community and to try to connect and help and get help from others as a way to kind of learn and grow as a sailor. And it just didn't really work out like that, which was a little disappointing, but you don't know if you don't try, right? So
sure.
That's
whenever you put anything out on social media, you're exposing yourself to everybody.
Yeah.
And there's people out there that just want to act superior and point their finger and attack because there's no repercussion.
Yeah, they
can be as evil as they want and hurtful
Yeah.
as they want and have zero repercussions for it. And some people that's just what they want to do,
Yeah. I think that's kind of why I decided I didn't really, it's like, why would you want to spend, like in the real world, like, why would you want to spend time with people who are rude and mean to you? Like you wouldn't choose to sit down and have a cup of coffee with someone so it's like, it's the same thing with the online world. Why would I want to choose to spend my time with that sort of, to me, it just is not, that's not what life's about. And I want to spend my time doing things that bring me joy and maybe hopefully bring joy to other people too, and connecting in a positive way.
Podcasting is much more fun than making YouTube videos.
That's the other thing. Yeah,
you get to talk to people, you get to make new friends with each episode.
Yeah, and learn.
And learn whatever you want. Yeah, you've got somebody for captive for an hour. You can ask them any questions you want. I love that.
Yeah, totally.
Like before I went to Newfoundland, I interviewed everybody I could find who'd been there.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I'll have to go back to those episodes because I think I started.
Well, I didn't find too many.
Oh, well, yeah.
I found a few.
No, John Kretschmer. You wrote about him.
I definitely interviewed John Kretschmer. He's the guy that talked me into going.
Yeah.
I told him I was interviewing him, and I said, I've been thinking about going to Newfoundland, and he said, "Oh, I'm going this summer. You got to go too. Meet me in." He goes, "I'll be in Lunenburg on June 23rd." And I'm like,
"Whoa,
all right,
all right." You did.
And I was there, and I met him.
Yeah. I remember that now.
I made a point. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be in Lunenburg on June 23rd, or whatever it was.
So you know how they say that there's such a small world, right? So I actually, interestingly, because I have compact sailboats, which were made in Clearwater, Florida, and they shut down after 51 years in April, which is really disheartening, very sad. But so one of the models that they have is called a Compact Legacy, and it's just a little 17-foot day sailor. And John Kretschmer's brother had one of them for sale. And I met him because I bought his boat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
It's such a small world. And he was telling me stories about when he grew up sailing with John and his folks. And I guess that they were sailing around the world. And I think something happened to their dad or something, maybe. I want to say that I can't remember the story, but there's a whole story with their childhood, I think, with sailing and how they spent a lot of time offshore miles, I think, from what I recall Ed telling me. But it's always so funny because I like saying that I have a connection to John Kretschmer because I bought his brother's boat.
That's so cool. And that's a cat boat, isn't it?
Well, that one isn't. That one's a sloop, but I am buying, speaking of adapting, and better to have tried than not tried at all. I bought a cruiser. It's only 25 feet, but it's a real big 25 footer. It's a compact 25 that I have up on Superior, and it takes us like 8 hours to drive there. And we said we would try it for a season to see how it goes. And we love Lake Superior. I grew up sailing there in the summer when I was a kid. My dad would charter a boat 1 week a summer in the Apostle Islands. And so we're like, let's give this a try. And then we just came to realize that it's proving to be pretty tough to get up there as frequently as we want, and the travel, and we have a farm, so finding care for our animals and stuff. We just realized, I think, that day sailing is more so the way to go. So I'm in the process right now. I had my boat listed on sailboatlistings.com, and I got an inquiry from someone who was a former compact dealer.
Oh, wow.
Now they don't sell anymore, right? And we're trading boats. So he's going to take my compact 25 and I'm going to take his gaff rigged Horizon Cat day sailor, it's like 20 feet long. So I've always wanted a cat boat. So now my wish is coming true.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
fun.
stoked. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. But we're just kind of in the throes of making all the final sort of details, and I was gonna make an official announcement, but I guess I just let the cat out of the bag now. So
there it is. Yeah. Well, that'll be fun to sail. A gaff rigged cat. Yeah. There's one halyard to deal with.
Yeah.
And
it's
a tiller.
hinged mast. So it's like all you got to do is just push it up pretty much. And
if you're going to go under a bridge, or you're going to put it on a trailer.
Yeah. Great loop. Here I come. You never know.
Great loop on
the great loop.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? Oh, what a challenge. Is the cat boat does it have a cabin you can sleep in? And
it does. Yeah, it's totally, you can sleep. I'm not sure if it's definitely sleeps too. There's a little galley area. I'll send you some specs.
All right. So you could do the great loop.
I could for sure. And it has a diesel. It has an inboard engine, believe it or not. It's only 20 feet long, but it has an inboard engine.
That would be such a great adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really excited about it. There's always something to learn, and I've always wanted to learn about sailing a gaff rig boat, and looks like maybe my dream will come true.
Awesome. You're chasing your dream. Make it happen.
You said it, brother. Amen to that. Well, I want to thank you so much, Paul, for coming back on the show. And I always love, like I said, every week listening to your stories and the people you interview, and hearing about how your own life is unfolding. And thanks so much for coming on the show to share just all sorts of different things about yourself, and what trips your trigger, as they say, and keeps you going strong, doing the things you love to do and chasing your dreams.
Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure and my honor to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. I'm just so grateful. Thank you.
You bet. My pleasure.
Okay. Fair winds to you, my friend. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Paul Trammell. Be sure to check out Paul's website, Substack page, and socials. You can find links in the show notes page of this podcast episode. If you are enjoying my podcasts, please consider following and/or subscribing to my show. Your support truly means the world to me, as well as inspires me to keep bringing you stories from others out there with a passion for getting out on the water. Until next time, fair winds.